You ever notice how some men lose themselves slowly in a relationship? Not because of shouting, hitting, or chaos, but through quiet manipulation, guilt, and emotional exhaustion. It's not always loud, but it's deeply damaging. Most men don't even realize it's happening until they've lost their confidence, purpose, and peace. What you're about to hear will change how you see female psychology forever. Because yes, women can use psychological violence too. Not in the way society talks about, but in subtle, silent ways that crush a man's spirit if he doesn't recognize the signs. Here's the truth. Every woman, whether intentionally or not, has emotional power over the man she loves. But when that power becomes a weapon, it creates one of the most painful experiences a man can go through. So pay close attention, because understanding this is how you protect your mind and reclaim your strength. If you're new here, hit subscribe right now before we continue, because the things we talk about here will give you clarity that most men never get. Now, let's break this down. It starts small. She begins to control through emotion, not words. You say something she doesn't like, and instead of discussing it, she withdraws affection. The silence feels heavy. You feel uneasy. You ask if she's okay, and she says, "I'm fine," but she's not. She's punishing you emotionally. That's psychological violence, using emotional withdrawal as a weapon instead of communication. The reason this works so powerfully is because most men are fixers. When a woman shuts down emotionally, a man feels pressure to fix it, to make peace, to restore the connection. But that's how the manipulation deepens, because once you start adjusting your behavior just to avoid her emotional shutdown, you're no longer leading, you're reacting. Over time, this becomes a pattern. You find yourself walking on eggshells. You filter what you say, you change how you express yourself, you even change your opinions to avoid triggering another emotional storm. She doesn't have to yell. Your fear of losing peace becomes her power. Here's where most men get confused. They think, but she's emotional, she's just expressing herself. And that's true to a point, but repeated emotional punishment isn't expression, it's control. Psychological violence hides behind emotion. It's the guilt trip when you try to spend time alone. It's the sarcasm when you voice your boundaries. It's the tears that appear right after she crosses a line, making you feel guilty for her behavior. See, this kind of manipulation works because it's invisible. There are no scars. There's no argument you can quote, just a slow erosion of your peace. That's why it's so dangerous, because you start thinking you're the problem. You question your tone, your intentions, your worth. You start apologizing even when you didn't do anything wrong. And here's something I need you to understand. Once a woman realizes you're emotionally dependent on her approval, the dynamic changes. She can now control you, not with commands, but with disappointment. She doesn't have to say, "Don't go." She can just look sad when you do. She doesn't have to say, "I don't like that." She can just go quiet. And suddenly, you feel wrong for doing what makes you happy. That's psychological violence disguised as love. Most men don't leave at this point. They double down. They think, maybe if I just show her more love, she'll stop being cold. But that's exactly how she trains you to submit emotionally. You give more, she gives less. You explain yourself, she stays silent. You chase her approval, she gives you crumbs of affection. This push-pull dynamic creates addiction, and that's how psychological violence turns love into control. Now, not all women who do this are evil. Some use these tactics unconsciously. They learned it from watching other relationships. But intention doesn't erase impact. The result is the same. A man loses himself while trying to keep her happy. Here's a brutal truth. When a woman feels she can control your emotions, she starts to lose respect for you. It's not instant, but it happens. Because respect comes from emotional strength, not weakness. The more she can emotionally manipulate you, the less she sees you as her equal. That's when attraction fades. And when that happens, she might start pushing further, criticizing you in subtle ways, mocking your goals, or making jokes at your expense. She'll say, "I'm just joking," but you'll feel the sting. That's emotional degradation, another form of psychological violence. It's meant to make you smaller, to keep you from realizing how much power you've given up. So what do? First, awareness is everything. Once you see the pattern, you can't unsee it. You start responding differently. You stop reacting to her moods and start standing firm in your own emotional balance. When she withdraws affection, you don't chase it. You give space. When she guilt trips, you calmly refuse to take responsibility for emotions that aren't yours. This is where stoicism comes in. Emotional control doesn't mean you suppress feelings. It means you don't get manipulated by them. You learn to sit in discomfort without rushing to fix it. You lead with calmness instead of fear. And when she realizes her emotional storms no longer shake you, something shifts. Either she adapts and respects you, or she leaves. Either way, you win. If she truly cares, your strength will inspire her to grow. If she doesn't, your strength will expose her intentions. Now here's where I want you to really think. Women use psychological violence not because they're naturally cruel, but because emotional power is their weapon in a world where physical power isn't theirs. It's their way of maintaining control. But when used wrongly, it turns love into a battlefield of invisible wounds. You need to start valuing your mental peace as much as you value her happiness. The moment you stop chasing emotional approval, you regain your strength. You stop being a victim of guilt and start being a man she respects again. And if you're watching this far, brother, don't forget to subscribe right now, because I know some of you are living this right now. And if you don't learn to recognize psychological violence, you'll lose yourself trying to keep someone who's slowly destroying your peace. When a man finally understands emotional manipulation, he stops arguing, stops pleading, and starts leading. That's when everything changes, because love without respect isn't love, it's control. And if you've been through that, remember this: the man who learns emotional strength never loses again. Now that you understand how psychological violence looks and feels, let's talk about the part that hurts the most, the recovery. Because when you've been through emotional manipulation, it's not just your confidence that breaks. It's your sense of reality. You start questioning your own memories. You replay moments wondering, did I overreact? Or maybe I really was too harsh. That's what psychological violence does. It doesn't just control you in the moment. It rewires your perception of yourself. Most men who go through this end up carrying invisible wounds. They don't talk about it because society tells them to man up. But what they're really doing is burying emotional trauma that silently affects every future relationship. Let's be clear, this is not about hating women. It's about understanding behavior. Because if you don't understand it, you'll never heal from it. And worse, you'll walk straight into it again with someone new. Here's what usually happens. After being manipulated for months or years, a man finally reaches his breaking point. He walks away. But his mind is still trapped. He keeps thinking about her, even when she's gone. That's not love, it's trauma bonding. Trauma bonding happens when pain becomes intertwined with affection. She hurts you, then comforts you, then hurts you again. Your brain gets addicted to that emotional roller coaster. You mistake anxiety for passion, silence for mystery, and inconsistency for chemistry. That's how psychological violence leaves its mark. It turns chaos into craving. And if you're not careful, you'll go searching for the same kind of emotional intensity again, thinking that's what love feels like, but that's not love. It's control wrapped in desire. So how do you break free from this cycle? Step 1. You stop trying to understand her. Because the more you analyze her behavior, the deeper you stay trapped in it. Manipulative dynamics thrive on confusion. Instead, shift your focus inward. Ask yourself, why did I tolerate this? Why was I afraid of losing her more than losing myself? What was I trying to prove by staying? These questions hurt, but they open your eyes. Once you start answering them honestly, you take the first step toward emotional freedom. Step 2, stop reacting. This is the hardest part. Because your instinct is to defend yourself, to explain, to justify. But that's what she expects. The more emotional you become, the more power she gains. When she tries to provoke you, accuses you, mocks you, ignores you, breathe. Don't defend. Don't explain. Stay silent with confidence, not fear. That silence isn't weakness, it's control. It tells her, you can't move me anymore. And when she realizes that, she'll either shift her behavior or lose interest. But either way, you've won back your peace. Step 3. Rebuild your emotional center. Most men think moving on means finding someone new. But no, moving on means rebuilding the relationship with yourself. You need to fall back in love with your purpose, your solitude, your discipline, the things that made you strong before the manipulation began. Start small. Go back to the gym, read every day, spend time in silence, write your thoughts down, watch how your energy changes. The more grounded you become, the less anyone can emotionally control you again. You see, a woman's psychological violence only works on a man who doubts himself. The moment you become certain about who you are, what you want, and what you deserve, the manipulation dies. Because her power was never physical. It was emotional access. She could touch your peace because you let her inside your mind. Once that access is closed, you stop bleeding energy. You stop explaining, overgiving, and begging to be understood. You simply move like a man who knows his worth. Now let's get real. Some women won't like that. When they realize they can no longer manipulate you, they'll call you cold, distant, or heartless. But what they really mean is, you're no longer under my control. And that's the price of freedom. Not everyone will understand it. Let me tell you something powerful. A calm man is the most dangerous kind of man, because you can't control what doesn't react. When she tries to guilt you, you simply nod. When she tries to test you, you smile. When she withholds affection, you focus on your purpose. She will either rise to your level or fall away. But what you won't do is chase peace from the same person who keeps taking it away. That's emotional mastery. And once you master that, you'll see something incredible happen. Your relationships start changing. The women who come into your life either adjust to your energy or leave quickly. You'll stop attracting chaos and start attracting respect. Because the truth is, respect is a mirror of the energy you project. If you lead with emotional control, no one can dominate you psychologically. But if you lead with fear of loss, you'll keep finding people who test that fear. Here's something you must always remember. Love without boundaries becomes suffering. Affection without respect becomes manipulation. And forgiveness without accountability becomes submission. You can love deeply, but love with awareness. You can give, but only from strength. When a woman truly loves you, she doesn't use guilt or silence to control you. She communicates, she respects your peace. She doesn't weaponize her emotions. That's the difference between love and control. And if you've ever been through psychological violence, you'll know peace feels unfamiliar at first. It's strange not to argue, not to walk on eggshells. But that calm, that's healing. Don't go back to chaos because calm feels boring. Peace isn't boring. It's what you've been praying for all along. Now, if you're still with me right now, it means you're not just watching another video, you're awakening. You're realizing that emotional manipulation isn't love, that your peace matters, that your masculinity isn't toxic, it's your protection. So before we end, I want you to take a second and think about this. If your presence doesn't bring her peace, she will try to control it. But when your peace is stronger than her emotions, she will either respect it or leave it. Either way, you win. Men, this is your reminder. Your calmness is your strength. Your boundaries are your freedom. And your peace is not negotiable. Never let anyone, no matter how beautiful, loving, or emotional, make you feel guilty for protecting your peace. Because once you lose that, you lose yourself. And if this message hit home, take 2 seconds and subscribe. Join the community of men who are learning to love with clarity, lead with calm, and never let manipulation disguise itself as love again. Because the moment you understand the psychology behind emotional control, you'll never fall for it again. And that is when you truly become free.